Everybody, I'm Lee Fitzgerald and I'm your subject coordinator for this subject, Resourcing the Curriculum. I'm a teacher librarian for a long time. I've been teacher librarian in primary and secondary schools, government and independent. And for the last 7 or 8 years, I've been a lecturer in the teacher librarian team at Charles Sturt. And I've taught this subject before. It's a good one. It's a very practical one. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it as an introduction to the subject. So being a teacher librarian is a challenging and exciting role, as no doubt you already know, and some of you are about to find out. So the teacher part of the teacher librarian role is about supporting information literacy and fostering a love of reading. And you probably have gathered by now that it's a role much underestimated and misunderstood in schools. And it requires a certain amount of tenacity and advocacy on the part of the TL. It's like, built into the role. So this subject is not really about the teaching role of the teacher librarian, only in as far as it focuses on resourcing the curriculum. The focus of this subject is collection development, the critical librarianship work of making the content of your collection, print and electronic, match the learning needs of your students across the curriculum. It's not really focused on resourcing the leisure reading needs of your students, but how the collection of your library supports the curriculum in subjects across the curriculum. So it's about collection development, and it's a very much a librarianship issue. The November 2019 issue of Knowledge Quest, which is the American Library Association journal, which is really fabulous, is available through the library. So the most recent issue, or the last one of last year anyway, is about collection development and trends and issues to do with it. For example, resourcing makerspaces, curating digital collections. And library collections have changed from books to so much more, as you know. Digital collections and their challenges, for example. So Mary Keeling's article, What's New in Collection Development, has this really excellent quote, and it deals with much of the issues that you're going to deal with in this subject. So she says, shaping, managing and promoting the school library collection is one of the key features that distinguishes school librarians from other educators. The work of developing a school library collection transcends grade levels and curricula and involves an enviable level of responsibility, creativity and autonomy. Many school librarians take enormous pride in the quality of their collections. School librarians are fluent in the use of measures and protocols for selecting, weeding, cataloguing, providing access to quality materials. Some school librarians exercise tight control over the selection process, while others rely on user-centred selection practices, such as buying books and resources from educator, administrator or learner request lists. So all of these issues that she comes up with in that quote are covered in this subject. So, and you've no doubt heard of the Students Need School Libraries campaign, led by Holly Godfrey, who is the Australian Teacher Librarian of the Year for last year, 2019. She has a film on the campaign website, which is called The Pantry Analogy, and how the collection of a good school library can be related to a very well-filled pantry. So go watch it, The Pantry Analogy, on her website. Students Need School Libraries. It's great, as are lots of the resources on that particular website, and you'll find it very useful for all the subjects in this course. So the blurb for The Pantry Analogy says, a bowl of sugar isn't enough to nourish a child, and a poorly resourced library isn't enough to support a robust education. Students and teachers need a well-stocked library and a team of qualified library staff to assemble the components to show them how to get the most from the available information. Parents know how important healthy eating is for children to have a healthy life. So now dig into a well-resourced library for a healthy education. The focus of her campaign is parents, bringing the parents around Australia to awareness of what a good school library can be and to act on behalf of their children. So to warn you, curation is going to be a word you encounter in your readings for this subject a lot. The school library collection is changing every day as we encounter the challenges of digital information, how to curate and manage, how to help students find their way through the maze of fake news and so on. So just thinking about this subject, you may be thinking, where do I start? A lot of you are starting ETL401 at the same time, so you're entirely new to the start, to the to Interact and to the way things are done in this course. So the best place to start is first of all to browse the Interact subject site, which will be available pretty soon. Get the subject outline, extract the schedule out of it and paste it somewhere where you can access it easily, because it'll keep you up to date on what's needing to be finished and what we're up to each week. So those of you who've done ETL401 already will have created their ThinkSpace blog. So it's easy for you. You just need to add a tab for ETL503 in that case. But those of you who are new to the whole course will need to focus on creating a blog soon. And do remember to keep it simple at this stage. Just make it really basic. You can make it look fancier later if you want to. You'll be using this ThinkSpace blog all the way through your course. Okay, so what am I saying to you? Oh yes, for how to do it, on the sidebar of Interact, there's a link saying ThinkSpace website, and if you go to that, you'll find lots of instructions on how to make your ThinkSpace blog. Okay, so please contribute the URL of the blog that you create to the document that's also on the sidebar of Interact. It says blog URLs. So just to tell you what ThinkSpace is and what the discussion forums are, ThinkSpace is for reflections on learning, and you'll use it right throughout your course. You'll be directed in the modules on when to use ThinkSpace and when to contribute to the discussion forums. So if you think of it as ThinkSpace as your personal reflection, discussion is where you discuss issues with your subject coordinator and with your fellow students. It's good that this subject is relatively light on in discussion forums and reflections. Just to talk about why and how you will use your reflections. You use it to reflect on your learning, of course, but the last part of assessment 2 requires you to reflect on your learning through the subject and to demonstrate that your learning has changed through the subject, which does mean you will have to come up with ongoing reflection through the subject, and don't do it all at the end, as some people have occasionally done. So what else now? The modules are all there for you. They've been gone through to check for links that don't work and so on. And there are PDFs available for those who prefer to work with paper. Please let me know if you find any links that have gone, because they do fall out all the time, as you know. And I'd appreciate you letting me know when this is working. The reassessment for this subject, there are 2 assessment tasks. I will hold an online meeting for each one, and there's also a folder full of resources for each task. Many students are doing both ETL401 and ETL503, and so I just want to recommend that you attend Jane Humphrey's library meeting, because they're really good, and she's presenting it on Thursday the 19th of March at 7 o'clock. She's the embedded Charles Sturt librarian for these subjects, and her coverage on how to search the library and the services offered by the library is really excellent. And even for you people who have done ETL401 already, I'm sure you remember how good her presentation was, and that there's always more to learn about what the library offers. Probably in particular, she's going to look at the changing in referencing that's going to happen over this year. We're going to move from APA 6 to APA 7, and while this doesn't impact on this particular subject yet, or no subjects until the second session of this year, it'd be good to know what it means in practice. So she'll probably talk about that. So your assessment tasks are about resourcing the curriculum. So the first one is due on the 6th of April, and I'm only going to tell you a little bit now because I don't want to overwhelm you too much. I'll just tell you the context, purposes of the two assessment tasks. So the first one is asking you to resource one of the cross-curriculum priority areas, that is the ATSI, Histories and Cultures, Asia and Australia's relationship with Asia, or sustainability. So you're going to go through the exercise of resourcing one of those areas, in particular using what you've learned about the technical skills of selection issues that you're going to encounter in the modules between now and then. It's going to be about learning about collection development practices, and then it's going to be finding these resources and writing an annotated bibliography of resources supporting the integration of one of these CCP areas for teachers to use in their classroom programs. So you're going to find that really useful, and make sure you do make it useful because you know, what is the point of doing assessments that don't link with your work in schools? Usually other times we have shared these lists of resources because they're very useful for everybody. That won't be a compulsory thing, and only those students who want to share their lists will do so. So that's the first one. That's about cross-curriculum priorities. And then the second one, due on the 25th of May, is asking you to look at the collection development policy as a critical underpinning of how you resource the curriculum in your school. And you're not going to actually write one, you're going to critique another one that's in existence already, and you will use what you've learned from collection development policy and practice from this subject to annotate an existing policy. And the second part is reflecting on your learning about collections through this subject, and that's where you'll use your previous your previous ThinkSpace reflections, possibly some of the discussion forums. Okay, what else have I got to tell you? Your assessment task will be resource. Your research will only begin with the modules as a starting point, but you should also include your own research in everything that you do in both assessment tasks. Just to remind you, some good sources for research are the TL journals. For example, Scan from the New South Wales DET, Access from Australian School Library Association, and as I mentioned before, Knowledge Quest, that's a really good one. Okay, so what are we looking at? What are the main areas you're going to cover in this subject? It's going to be the link between librarianship skills, the critical skills of selecting and organising, presenting a collection, and where it intersects with the curriculum. So these are some of the things you'll be looking at. How the school library collection is changing. What are the principles of selection for school library collections? Is there an underlying body of theory that can help you no matter what the format is that you're going to use for selecting your resources? And this subject says yes, there certainly is a set of principles that you can learn about collections. It's a very practical subject. You'll learn about such things as selection aids, selection criteria, funding and how to do with, the little or a lot that you have to work with. It'll be about acquiring sources. It'll be about licensing for e-resources. It'll be about digital rights management, copyright, censorship. And then overarching it all is the critical place of policy writing for organising the collection of your school, managing your collection with the collection development policy. And then the modules finish up with the future of school library collections. And it's a particularly good module, and it's a lot to think about. And I would suggest that it's good to look at Module 7 fairly early on in the subject, because it's a background of continuous change that school library collections are finding themselves in. And it's really good also for Assessment 2. So I just wanted to welcome you and to say that I'm here for you to get in contact with. I will, you can get me by email. The two meetings that I'm going to run for you, I will pre-record and give you the opportunity to watch and listen to them. And then I'll divide up your numbers into alphabetically so that we can have some chat sessions with smaller numbers attending so that you can ask your questions and be sure of getting an answer. At this stage, there are 149 students in the subject, so I think it'll work better if I, break it down into groups. So I wish you well, and good on you for studying teacher librarianship, and I look forward to working with you.